Hello, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. We're going to discuss the important topic of how to write using comparisons in English. This is very important for academic writing at university, for the IELTS test, for lots of different kinds of writing, and also for speaking too. So I hope you find this helpful. Let's begin by discussing a very simple comparison between two colors, orange and green. Let's begin by looking at a very simple contrast between colors. So we're going to look at green and orange and the color that both of them share, which is yellow. So if we look at this Venn diagram, which is a good way to compare things, because in the middle it shows things that are similar with the two objects that are being compared. In this case, it's the color yellow. We can see the differences too. Green is made of blue and yellow, whereas orange combines yellow and red. I'm sure you are familiar with the colors, but let's look closely at the language. For differences, I just used the word whereas and combined two clauses together. Green is made of blue and yellow, whereas orange combines yellow and red. Alternatively, I could have used other words. However, in contrast, conversely, on the other hand, but. I could also have split the sentences and started with the comparison word. Another common structure we can use is to talk about the similarities first and then discuss the differences. For example, although orange and green both include yellow, they are very different colors. Note, the key word here is although. This indicates to the reader that the second part of this sentence will contrast with the first. There are other words we can use instead of although. We could use even though, despite the fact that, and there are other phrases we can use as well. Let's now compare apples and oranges. If you consider the Venn diagram again, think about what similarities they have. What might be some differences? For similarities, both apples and oranges grow on trees, both are nutritious, both are fruit, both are healthy. If we think about differences, apples, the peel is eaten, and apples come in more colors. If we think about oranges, the peel is not eaten, and oranges are more symmetrical than apples. We can start with an introduction explaining both the similarities and the differences, as we did before. Although apples and oranges are fruit, grow on trees, and are nutritious, they also have differences. Note that we can switch these sentences around. Notice that this good structure means we can flip it around the other way and also say, with the same meaning, although they have differences, both apples and oranges are fruit, grow on trees, and are nutritious. Which of those two sentences would be a better start if we were writing a paragraph comparing apples and oranges? Well, the first one. Especially if the paragraph then goes on to list those differences, like this. The skin of apples is usually eaten, whereas the skin of oranges is not. Apples come in a bigger range of colors than oranges. Oranges are more symmetrical than apples. When we consider paragraph structure and we list 3 or more differences, your writing will be more cohesive by adding some linking words. We could add firstly, or the first difference, secondly, another difference, a further difference. We could add finally, a final point of difference is. Let's now look at the grammar of comparison closely. 2 common forms to compare are these structures. Oranges are more symmetrical than apples. Apples are not as symmetrical as oranges. Note that here subject and object swap. but the meaning stays the same. The first choice uses this structure, more plus the adjective plus than. The second structure uses the verb to be plus not plus as plus adjective plus as. A big problem for students is often getting the adjective incorrect, which is a vocabulary issue as well as the grammatical structure. Let's compare something more complicated, fruit and vegetables with fast food. Consider the Venn diagram again. What are the similarities? What are the differences? So the similarities between fruit and vegetables and fast food, well, they're both food, delicious, tasty. In terms of differences, of course, fruit and vegetable are better for your health, they're nutritious. Fast food, more salty and unhealthy. What kind of language do you notice the writer using in this example? There is no denying that fruit and vegetables are significantly more nutritious and beneficial for our health than fast food. Yet, there are still considerable numbers of people who prefer to eat junk food. So what's being compared here is a common idea. Everyone knows that fast food is unhealthy, and then contrasting it with the people who ignore or disagree with this advice. In that sentence that you see there, what words replaced the word although? And what other word is added? What we see here is the person using the phrase, there is no denying that. And also notice the yet in the middle to indicate a change. Another thing to notice in this sample here is there are two examples of the writer using academic language, which means much or many. Can you notice the words or phrases that have the same meaning as much or many? Let's finish with a comparison between past and present and a more difficult topic. This topic is correcting misbehaving students. So once more, if we consider the Venn diagram, the similarities are that in both situations, in the past and now, children do misbehave from time to time. The difference is how that behavior was corrected. In the past, it was a physical punishment, as we see in the picture here. It was painful, it was fast. Whereas nowadays, it's more reflective. The teacher discusses more, and it's done at a much slower and more thoughtful process. Let's see how this person writes about this idea, and note also how this paragraph now is structured nicely. Although inappropriate behavior often needs to be corrected in schools, there are vast differences between how this was done in the past and at present. In the past, corporal punishment was common. This barbaric practice involved immediate, painful punishment by striking misbehaving students. Nowadays, a far more understanding and reflective approach is the norm. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that helped you with your comparison language. Make sure you put those ideas into practice. Go away, think about some things, write some sentences, write some paragraphs comparing things. There's lots of things to compare.